Hey guys, Teresa here. Welcome back to my channel, Lost My Thread. I'm here today to talk through my closet clear out as we move into the spring season, saying goodbye to some much loved me mates. Over the years, I have found that for my wardrobe, it really makes sense to separate the spring-summer things from the autumn-winter things. There are different types of fabrics, different styles of garments, even different colors that I tend to gravitate towards during the different two halves of the year. And so when I'm getting into this springier bit where I want to get my spring and summer things out, it seemed like a really good opportunity to look through everything that I have and make some hard decisions about what I want to keep and what I want to say goodbye to. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that process, what that was like for me, but importantly I'm going to be showing you some me-made garments that I've decided I just need to say goodbye to, and at the end I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I'm thinking of doing with those garments. I would love to get your advice if you have been through this experience before, either giving away or selling clothes from your me-made wardrobe, but let's get right into, first of all, how I found the experience this year. I have here some vacuum sealed bags of clothing. These are garments that I'm not currently wearing in my wardrobe, but I don't want to get rid of. So they're kind of in like a limbo situation, but I definitely don't need them cluttering up my headspace and confusing me when I'm trying to get dressed in the morning. Now, these clothes, there are 3 huge bags of these. You may be able to recognize some of the fabrics from the me-made clothes. I have 3 of these. They're like a medium-sized bag. And then I also have a small one, but they're all pretty doggone packed. And essentially these are garments that are currently not working for my body. So I have mentioned on my channel before that I have put on a bit of weight over the last year and a half thereabouts, and I've essentially gone up a size. And for a lot of my clothes, it doesn't really matter, but I do tend to like to wear quite fitted silhouettes, and I sew a lot of quite fitted things. And when you sew things that are very fitted and then your body changes, surprise, surprise, they do not fit. The other thing is, because my body has grown proportionately, my bust size has increased, which has meant that anything that's like a wrap over situation is often now sitting way too low cut, and I'm really not happy with where that is. But generally things are just feeling a lot more stretched, particularly across the bust and across the tummy. Now this top is an example of something that, like, yes, it does technically still fit, but there is not a lot of room, and it is kind of on thin ice, and I can see like creases and things that were not there when I originally made it that I don't want to have in my garments, but it's good enough. The things that I've pulled out and put in these bags are basically to the point where I either cannot put them on comfortably, or I just don't like the way they're looking currently. And it was funny because as I was going through this process, I literally tried everything on, which I have not done since I've gained some weight, and it was kind of sad to be able to see all these things just kind of stacked up that I'm currently not able to wear. But at the same time, it was nice to actually be able to take them out of my wardrobe, and so that I'm not finding that in the morning I'm getting dressed, I'm like, oh no, this is no good, and then I hang it up again, and then a month later I pull it out again and realize, no, this is no good. So I feel like for my headspace, it's nice to have them separate. The other thing I will say is, because I like to sew, having these things not cluttering up my wardrobe and making me realize where the gaps are mean that I can feel a little bit more free and open to sew a lot of things that I like to sew, and not just keep telling myself, oh, well, I've already got some of those, I've already got some of those. Because if I don't have those things that fit my current body, then I don't have those things to wear. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about, you know, body image and how we feel about our bodies. I will say that generally, I'm not upset with how my body looks right now, but I have definitely been feeling less healthy. And that for me is when it kind of tips over into, okay, I actually want to do something to be a little bit more just healthy for my own self. And so I have been definitely cutting out a lot of snacks. I have been trying to do a little bit more like active kicking my butt yoga. And I'm also working on getting some aerobic exercise into my life. So I know all these things are going to make some changes, and then quite likely a lot of these clothes are then going to be able to come out again. But like I said, for now, I definitely want to just focus on having the clothes that are working for me, that I actually have an opportunity to wear. Now, even though those things are not the focus of this video, I did just want to mention it because I know I'm not the only person who's had some body fluctuations, changes to my size and my shape, and I think it's really important for all of us to recognize that we all go through this and it's a real thing in life, and also it can be particularly tough when there are things that you've made for yourself that you really love. But sometimes you just have to let things go, and there's definitely a possibility some of these may go at some point, but I definitely have some other things I've decided it's just game over for those, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Now, these are in no particular order. I just happened to grab them as I've stacked them up, and the first one I'm going to talk about is this. This is the Everyday Waistcoat by New Craft House. This is a really lovely quilted cotton fabric that I got from the Fabric Godmother that has two sides to it, and I chose to use both sides so that it could in theory be reversible. I bound all of the edges so that way it can be fully reversible and it still looks nice on the inside. This side has a pocket, so there's a pocket just on one of the sides, and as you can see from the label, I only just made this last year. Now, the thing with this vest is I just don't like it. I have tried wearing it with different things underneath, and I feel like the main thing that I'm noticing in my wardrobe is that I just really don't love wearing things that are just two color that are a high contrast. So if it's a dark color and a light color and that's the whole of the design, I just don't love that look on me. But also this is a pretty shapeless vest. I've made another vest that's more colorful, more just multiple colors, my kinds of colors, that's more fitted, that I wear a whole lot more than this one. And whenever I've worn this, I basically felt like I'd thrown on somebody else's vest. It almost feels a little clownish to me when I'm wearing it. And I don't think it's the fault of the vest. I think it's just to do with the rest of my style and what I feel suits me. And so I do want to find something nice to do with this vest so that somebody else can love it. The next one is this dress, which is obviously, it's not going to look great on the hanger. This is the Westcliff Dress by Friday Pattern Company in this really wonderful fabric. It's an Indian block print fabric, but it's made in a nylon, I believe it is. I'll put up on the screen what the contents are. Now, this was something that I made for a Clash of the Patterns, and I just never really liked the way that this dress fit me. I feel like things are pulling in really odd places, and I don't know if it's to do with my body proportions or if it's just the pattern. I have heard a few people say the same kind of thing. I think the neckband piece is definitely a bit short and that's not helping, but things just bunch up in weird ways underneath the bust, and I don't love the pattern. I don't intend to make that pattern again, but this dress, it's like, it's so pretty, but I just hate wearing it because it feels uncomfortable. It feels like it's pulling, and I feel like I'm constantly shifting things around. And so I know I'm not gonna wear it. I did try wearing it, giving it a good chance, and I didn't love it. So the one thing I will say is if I was gonna get rid of this one, whether I was gonna donate, sell it, whatever it is, unfortunately this one I sewed completely on the sewing machine, which is a fine way to construct jersey garments, but I will say I don't feel like it's the highest quality sewing, and so I don't know how I feel about giving it away or selling it unless it was finished a little bit better on the inside, which there's no way I can do at this point. There's way too many like construction points that I wouldn't want to unpick. So I'm feeling a bit on the fence about whether I just have to say this one is just a bit of a write-off and a learning experience. I would love to get your thoughts on that. The next one is this skirt. So this is the cami skirt from the Hemming. It was a free tutorial. I don't think it's available anymore. Now, I know it's super wrinkled, and that's probably part of the issue. This is a viscose twill fabric that is incredibly prone to wrinkling. I got it from Sew Me Sunshine. I really love the color, and I really love the overall concept of this skirt. I used to have very similar skirts when I was younger. Well, one in particular that I wore all the time. And so I felt like it would be nice to replace that. But the reality is, this is just really short. I feel like had I had this skirt when I was 20, I would wear it no question. But now that I'm 42, I don't want to be wearing a skirt that short. I don't feel comfortable in a skirt that short. So I feel like that just needs to go to somebody who will actually love wearing it and feel more comfortable in it. The next garment that is not making the cut is this Blackwood Cardigan by Helen's Closet. Really difficult to show black garments on camera, I appreciate. But this is a black cotton jersey fabric that I got from So Me Sunshine. The Blackwood cardigan is a slim fitted cardigan with thin sleeves. It is not meant to close at the front. I went for the long line version for this one, so it has pockets. I feel like it's a very nice cardigan. There's nothing wrong with it just in and of itself, but it just doesn't work for me. I do find, because the sleeves are quite thin and also it's not a super stretchy fabric, they really don't pull up very far up my arms comfortably, and I need to be able to pull my sleeves up, whether I'm wearing it for work or even just at home, washing my hands, doing some cooking, whatever it might be. I need to be able to pull my sleeves up, and I cannot do it with this fabric. The other thing is I've been finding myself gravitating more toward a lot of fuller sleeves, and so the thinner sleeve cardigan is just not really doing it for me. I don't want to get rid of all of my Blackwood cardigans because they are useful if I'm wearing the type of garment that they can layer over, but I just feel like there's too many reasons why I think this one just isn't working, and in the end of the day, I've barely worn it since I've made it, and so I think I just need to accept it and say goodbye. Next up is this two-piece. This is the Stella Joggers by Tilly and the Buttons and the Mylan sweatshirt by Closet Core. This is in a really lovely fleece back sweatshirting fabric, so it's very nice and soft on the inside. I was so excited when I made this matching set. It was my first matching loungewear set that I'd ever made, and when I first made it, it felt amazing and I loved it, and it shrunk. Now, I did pre-wash this fabric, but cotton sweatshirting is a devil for shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Even if I had pre-washed it twice, I don't even think that would have been enough, because I've noticed over the times I've been washing it and wearing it, it's been getting shorter, the front, and the sleeves have been getting shorter. And it's basically at a point where every time I put it on, I'm like continuously like tugging, and it's just annoying me. And so I don't want to wear it. So sadly, I think this one just has to go. I would consider whether I should maybe give this one either to charity or to sell, but honestly, as I'm looking at it, I have had it for a while, and it might not be obvious on camera, but definitely I can see that the fabric is starting to kind of wear away in points. And I really wouldn't want to give anything away that I wouldn't think is like good enough to buy, that's high quality. So I think that one's just a bit of a sad goodbye, but I'm very glad I made it and I have learned some lessons. I will be pre-washing any cotton sweatshirting fabric at least 2 times in the future. Next up is this jumpsuit, which I feel kind of sad about, and I've really kind of gone back and forth about it. This was a So Frugal jumpsuit that I made, I think it was Ready to Sew for Peppermint magazine. I'll have up on the screen. And this fabric has a stripe, and because of the way this is constructed, there's this really cool like chevron effect on the back. I played around a lot with direction of stripes, so including like the pockets or a different direction from the main body. I like the color of the button. I feel like it really pops against this pretty fabric. This is a linen fabric that I got. I think it's a cotton linen actually that I got from Vogue Fabrics. Now, I feel like this jumpsuit, in all honesty, since I've made it, I think the community always liked it more than I did. So whenever I talked about it, when I shared it on my channel, people really loved the look of it, which I get, but I don't love wearing it. Now, I will say that when I wore it, it did feel, I think to do with like the color and the style, a little bit too 90s to me. I felt like I should be wearing like a ponytail on the top of my head, loads of eyeshadow. It just didn't feel like me. And I also have noticed that this was one of the first things when I put on a little bit of weight was too tight and uncomfortable. Now I did size down on this, and I'm sure that is part of the reason, because I did want it to be pretty fitted. But I know that there's no time anytime soon that I'm going to be feeling comfortable wearing this one as far as the size. But even besides that, I don't love this style. I don't love this color for me, and I just need to say enough is enough. Now, this is another one where I feel like it's not my best construction. It's not the worst by any means. Like, it's generally finished mostly pretty well. I actually did a bias binding around the neckline, which I think is pretty, but I hadn't really thought ahead how it was going to go into the placket, and that to me looks quite messy. Also, my interfacing extended beyond what was visible where this fabric folded back, and again, I feel like that just looks quite messy. I really like the button that I put on this, and I made a little thread chain to put the button on. Like I said, there's a lot about this that I like, I'm considering whether or not I should give this away and sell it on, and I'm leaning towards yes, but at the same time, I think when you have something you've made, you probably hold yourself to a high standard, and I'm just not entirely sure it's up to the standard that I am happy with. Thoughts down below. And the last one is these shorts. These are the Palisade shorts, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the pattern company. I'll put it up on the screen. These have a mostly elasticated waist, but it is flat a bit at the front, and it's elasticated all the way around the back. Obviously, this is viscose linen. I didn't press these for you guys. This is a creased mess. They don't usually look this creased if I'm gonna plan to wear them. They have this really cool crossover pocket detail. I feel like the concept of these shorts I really like, but the reality I do not love. I feel like the fit on me was always just way off. I feel like they're baggy in weird places, like inconsistently. They fit me in the butt, but they're very baggy at the front crotch, but then also the thighs kind of baggy in the middle in a weird spot. I don't know, there's something that is not right with these shorts. And I had held onto them wondering if maybe I would want to wear them more as loungewear. And at the end of the day, I know every time I put these on, I feel awful and I want to take them off. Also, because of all the bulk of the pockets, I wouldn't want to sleep in them. They wouldn't be very comfortable. So I think they've just kind of had their time with me. Now, this is another example where I think these are largely made quite well, and I tried to do a good job of actually constructing them. But I think I made a mistake here where I've got this interfacing visible that I think was meant to somehow be folded on the inside. And I think that's likely my fault, but I did look at the instructions and wonder if possibly it was the pattern that was wrong. But either way, that bit makes me wonder whether I should possibly sell these or give these away, or whether they're just not quite up to high enough standard. And this is where I'm sitting in this kind of strange situation where I don't know if these clothes are well enough constructed to actually sell them on or give them away. I don't have anybody in my life who is a similar proportion to me that would want these clothes, that these clothes would fit. So I need to be thinking a bit more widely. I can definitely donate them, some of them to like charity shops, thrift shops, but I know those things don't always get sold. And also I don't know if some of these are maybe even not quite to that standard. The other thing I was thinking about is whether to sell them on like Vinted or eBay, and anybody who's done that kind of thing, I would love to know what your experience was like. I'm apprehensive, especially considering there are things that I feel like are not like absolutely perfect chef's kiss about them. And I don't know how I would feel about buying garments like that. But partly I feel like as long as I'm really clear in the descriptions and there are images, then people can make a decision for themselves. In all honesty, I don't particularly worry about the money from them. I more just would love them to go to somebody who would actually wear them and get some use from them. Because a lot of these things really, they just seem like a shame to just put in a landfill. So please do let me know your thoughts on any of those things. I am definitely happy at least to have made some decisions about these things. I feel like that's something that kind of takes a weight off when you've been hanging on to a garment for a while and every time you see it, you're like, I don't really like that, or that kind of bugs me. So I feel like now I can learn some lessons, to have some things to take away, but also I'm very aware and I accept the fact that sewing is a learning process. Not everything's going to go well. We are experimenting, and sometimes you're going to make something and it's just not going to work out. I hope it was useful and interesting to hear about my experience. I would really like to hear your own experiences with your own body changing and how that's affected your me-made wardrobe, or even just your shop-bought wardrobe, right? Because we're all living this life with having to accept our bodies for where they are at the time. I really do hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do give me a like. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel to see upcoming videos, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!